one of my biggest problems during the PhD. So what happened was that in my PhD, I was always asking if I should go after the PhD in academia or in industry. And I was in this fork of the road, like Alice in Wonderland, wondering what I should do after the PhD. What happened was that, unfortunately, I was not lucky because my professor invested in other project, and by mistake she moved all of her grant in another big project, and I was not included because I was not a medical doctor, and that was the only reason. So it wasn't because I was not good enough, it was just an unlucky period in the lab. So I came back from UK to Italy, and I didn't find a job for a while. And then I decided, okay, if my professor cannot grant me, I have to search a grant that is for me. And I looked on the horizon. So what you see here, it's a schematic overview of the horizon. The Horizon program are a bigger framework that in which the Europe is investing in research, and is composed in 3 pillars: Pillar 1, Pillar 2, and Pillar 3. In particular, in the Pillar 1, we have the ERC, the Marie Curie, and the research infrastructure. Both the ERC and the Marie Curie actions are giving grant to are providing a grant for singular person. In particular, in the Marie Curie actions, there is also the Marie Curie Individual Fellowship, that is the grant given to postdoc, usually, because since the Horizon 2020, it was possible to apply with a research experience of at least 5 years. With the next program, which will be Horizon Europe, starting on 2021, one of the requirements will be having the PhD. So you cannot apply without the PhD. So it was asked to me today also to give you an overview about the proposal. So this is a type of grant where you have to write your project, and you will receive a specific grant to reach some milestones. So here you can see that you have, this was my Marie Curie in 2018 when I applied, and in particular my PhD, my fellowship was in Nepal Conled Society and Enterprise. There are different panels inside the Marie Curie Individual Fellow. Usually, all the fellowship are divided by topics. My topic was in life science and in biotechnology. And there was the possibility to apply with an enterprise and apply it with a startup company. Basically, the startup company contacted me directly, which is not a common way. When you go to the Horizon webpage, you will also find in the individual fellowship who are the companies that usually apply to this kind of program. And there you can also find an industry that can support you. or otherwise you can also apply within the university. But my problem was that I didn't know if I should go for industry or for academia. So I wanted a project that could combine both of these soul. And one of the spirit of this Marie Curie was also for me to understand what innovation was meaning and how I could translate my research into a product. So when you are applying, there are some things that you have to know, like the proposal acronym is something that you will decide. In my case, I put GOCMM because I am working in gut on a chip and for microbiome study. But you can use any kind of name you like, so this is not a big matter. So what you do is that at the beginning you have to put some general information. Basically, you will fill a form, which is your acronym, your proposal title, how many months you are gonna carry the fellowship. Here I will explain you a little bit better. Inside the Marie Curie Individual Fellowship, there is the possibility to go for a standard Marie Curie Individual Fellowship that has a duration of 24 months. There is the possibility to have a 3-year or fellowship in the case you couldn't carry out your research for some period. Moreover, I forgot to say something that is very important. All the programs that are under the horizon, and in particular in the Pillar 1, are related to the mobility. So you cannot stay in the same country more than 3 years in the case of the individual fellowship. So then you fill this form, you put your scientific area, in my case was the life science, and then you have some descriptor that you have to choose inside the form. You have a classic abstract. In the abstract, it's important not just to mention the scientific part, as we usually do in science, but you also have to be specific on what are the advantages, what is the state of art, what is the aim of your project. And what will be the new things, like the motivation that leads us to get involved in this project is to provide to the scientific community and industry a convenient standardized methodology. So this is something that you have to underline in your proposal. So how you are going to reach your goals, and what is the motivation, and basically you have to be very specific on the advantages. Of course, inside the proposal, you have some specific declarations that are related to ethics and to the European Code of Conduct for Research Integrity. And this is simply a form that you have here to tick. So not a big deal at the beginning. Of course, you have to choose a hosting place where to carry out your research. In my case, it was Cherry Biotech, which is a startup, but can be also a university. So this is up to you in which panel you will apply. There is again the form, so you have to put the address of the place, of the hosting place, and then again another form if it's applicable or not. In my case, it was not a department, it was a company, so it was not applicable. But in the case of the university, of course, you put the name of the department and the institute. Here again, personal information, your address, your email address, your date of birth. And then here you have to prove the fact that what you have done in the previous year. And if you spent some part of your activity outside your country. In my case, since I am Italian, most of my research was carried in Italy, but I spent 2 years in UK, and I have also had a visiting research with UK even after I was not granted. There are also the data of the supervisor that will be given by the host institution. So inside the host institution, you will have, in any case, your a supervisor or an advisor. Here is the budget. And this is the thing that probably for someone that is starting his own research from scratch is very important to know, because these kind of grants are very difficult to get, but they will give you a lot of money to carry out all the research. Of course, it's not going all on you, but this is what you will get in 24 months, or in the case of the Marie Curie Individual Fellowship that is called CAR, so CAR, you will have for 3 years. Again, the ethics is just a form that you have to fill, and it's really depending on your research, and it's important when you submit the proposal to specify the page. So once you put yes, always specify in which page of your proposal will be. And we can skip now. Still, there are a lot of forms that you have to add. In my case, my fellowship was not just in non-academic sector, but I also asked for a secondment in academic institute. And so you can choose your secondment, and this is what make stronger some proposal. But sometimes you can also put here no, and then you can specify in the proposal that you will choose after your secondment on the basis of your profit. Even in this case, there is always something related of open research data and open science. In my case, I had to put no for the simple reason that with the company we were discussing about the intellectual properties. But then at the end, since I'm working on patenting, I couldn't put the open research since the beginning. So it was more on a pilot project. But later with Alexander in the next session, he will explain much more what does it mean open research data and data management plan. So it's something that you will learn, and then yeah, I could put yes without any problem, and without any problem also for the patent. but it was a discussion that we had in the company, and then he had that kind of preference. So not be pilot, but of course all my research is in open science and open access. So I have still to be focused on that. So now we will go in the real part of the proposal. The proposal of the individual fellowship is divided in two sections, the B1 and the B2. I'm going to show you the B1. The most important part is the excellence. I will show you also here the excellence. Okay, usually the excellence is the one that has the major impact. Then there is the impact, the implementation, if the scope of your proposal is met or not, the operational capacity, so if the host institution is the one that can really support my proposal. There is also some ethical statement that you have to fill, and the evaluator will have overall comments. Sorry, I will go again here. So the excellence. The excellence is the real part of science. So here is your project. What you have to do is write the first paragraph in which you, in few words, are summarizing your project. So the name of the project has to be clear, and then you put the acronym. The goals, it's important to state in 3 words, like 3 lines. It's enough. You don't have to be very specific. Then what you have to do, and it has to be clear, the project. A bullet point are fine, like 1, 2, 3, whatever you prefer. And then how also the hosting is helping you in carry out the project. So as you can see, it's a very small paragraph at the beginning of the excellence. Then there is the introduction. In this introduction is what is the state of art, the current state of art, and then how you would like to go beyond the state of art. So which are the bottleneck of your project, and then what are your specific objectives. This is very important because the Marie Curie Individual Fellowship will be given just if everything is clear and is achievable. And in fact, then you have to specify the experimental design. So what you are going to do. A good tips that I can give you is using figures and using a scheme. Because for the part B, you have just 10 pages that you can fill. Otherwise, if you go beyond 10 pages, your proposal will be rejected by default. So no one will ever read it. So less is always better. Here I also put a schematic way to present my objective and some experimental plan. And then, so in 3 pages, I put all my proposal. Then it's something that you will have to agree with the host. So the transfer of knowledge from the host to the early career researchers. So this is means early researchers. So this the transfer of knowledge is how the host is intending to train you, because the Marie Curie is still a training project, even after the PhD. as a postdoc to move in multidisciplinarity field, in other discipline, or to support your research that has to be new, innovative, but achievable. In fact, here as those institutions, since in my case was a company, I had also to put entrepreneurship and startup training. But you can discuss with the university or whatever. They usually have some kind of forms already prepared. And then you have also to underline what you are giving to the host. So it has to be mutual. The quality of the supervision, it means that you have to have a short paragraph in which the curriculum of your supervisor is written. The quality of the hosting arrangement is about the facilities that you are going to have, the task that will be supported and how. The potential of the research to reach and reinforce professional maturity, independence during the fellowship. In this case, since it's a postdoc, you have to really underline what is your professional, what is your potential. So what you have done in the past that will help you to carry out this project. So in my case, the fact that I traveled in London, and in particular that I was working in translational research. So from the preclinical to clinical studies. And this was helping me in the translational part for having a research to translate in innovative product. And this is the excellence. So the excellence was half of my part B, half of the proposal. And if we go again in the evaluation, what I got was 4.30, that for someone is still on the limit. Nowadays, the excellence has to be around 450 and even more. So what they, in particular in the excellence, what they see is the quality and the credibility of the research or innovation, so the level of novelty. They will see the quality and the appropriateness of the training and the transfer of knowledge between the research and the host institution. They will evaluate the quality of the supervision and the integration in the team, because the aim is that or the company or the university will hire you after the Marie Curie, which is not always possible, but at least in the proposal it has to be clear that the quality is high, or in any case, even after the Marie Curie, you will be able to be hired. And then here the potential of the researchers to reach and acquire the professional maturity and independence. The second part is the impact. Let's see in my proposal the impact. So how this product, in my case, or my research, was enhancing my future career. In my case, was more related on interdisciplinarity, on the communication, on the entrepreneurship skills. Sorry. Be aware that in the next presentation, my colleague Julianne will speak about the transferable skills from academia to industry, and this may help you in the writing of the proposal. And to be honest, I used some of the scheme that Julian will show you later. The quality of the proposal measure and how to disseminate the project. In any Horizon project, it's important for them to advertise about the Marie Curie and how the Marie Curie is helping you to reach the goals to be hired. And in particular case, in the impact is how you spread the advantages, how you spread your research, how you are able to explain to the people your research, not just on the scientific community, but also to the citizen. And this is what is called citizen and science, that will explain later. Will be explained later from Alexander. Then we have. I had it here, but this was my subsection. More product-oriented projects, because my Marie Curie was in the sector of enterprise. Then the quality, so how to communicate the project. And let's see here, this is the final part of the impact. So it was enhancing the future career prospect, the quality of the proposed measure to exploit and disseminate the project results, and how to communicate the project activities in a different targeted audience. So when you write this part, you have to focus on these three parts. What is helping you is write all of the aim in subsection, like I did here. You see, I divided in 3 paragraphs. So all the B1 has to be very, very schematic. The third part that is very important is the implementation. And here you have to be clear on the milestones and the work package. What is helping you? Before writing this paragraph, go directly in a Gantt chart. The Gantt chart is helping you on having a schematic overview on what you want to do during the 2 years. In my case, the first package was the project management. Then I added the dissemination, the communication. In my case, was related on the product and the validation of the product. And then another part was training. And the secondment, it's important to be added, but it has to be also here what I think they said that let's see, I think, yeah, here it was a strength in my case. The work packages in the Gantt chart are well organized. Weakness, it's not clear what the main task and the commitments of the supervisor will be done during the secondment. So how you can improve this part is that here in this part, you have also to specify what will be the role that you are going to carry in another partner. That can be another university in the case you are doing a standard individual fellowship, or can be another industry, or whatever it's functional on your experience. It's also important, write the risk and the mitigation. So what can be the risk and in which word package are right, and how much is possible that it happens or it won't be happening. This makes your proposal very strong because it means that you are aware of the things that will not working in your project, and you have already a plan how to mitigate them. Can be very few, can be longer, but be sure that you fit in this limit of the page. And of course, you have to underline what are the facilities that will help you to carry out the project. The second part, the B2, is related on your curriculum. In my case, even here, be aware of a few tips. Always be very schematic. So bullet point is the best that you can do, but also you can use the table. The trick of the table is that you can use a font that is smaller compared to the normal one. And this helping you to fit again in the page. Because also in the part B2, you have a limit of, I think also in this case is 10. But every time that you are going for a proposal, be sure to read the formatting, because they have the size of the font, the character that you have to use, how has to be the template. So in my case, the project on the left, your name in between, and the Marie Curie Individual Fellowship on the right. So this has to be part of all your pages.
Hi, Julia. Sorry for interrupt you. Do you mind to finish your presentation in order to give time to the other speaker and to have some free time for the questions, please?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't see the time. I'm really sorry. Okay, so basically this part is just related to your curriculum. The hosting will give you some part that you can that you will have already filled, and then there is the ethic. And the ethic is more related on the type of the research that you are having. You can also add some appendix. In my case, was about the clinical project. And this is all the proposal. I finished now. Okay. So this
Thank you, Julia. I'm sorry for interrupt you.
No.
And now we would like to move to Raquel Sebastián. So Raquel, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Ignacio, for giving me this opportunity to present like my fellowship. And in this case, it's completely different as the one that Julia was presenting. Julia was talking about the individual fellowship, but in my case, what I got, it was a Marie Curie Initial Training Network, or what is the same, ITN. The main difference between one and the other is like for the individual fellowship is more to do your postdoc, while in my case, the initial training network is more focused to do the PhD. You also can apply for a postdoc, but in general is to do the PhD. And the second difference between one and the other is like in the first case, as Julia was explaining you need to write all the proposal. While in my case is the consortium. So how does it work? On average, at least for the European Commission, 3 universities, they need to be together and they need to write a proposal about one topic. So in my case, 6 universities, they wrote the proposal and they got the grant. So then they were looking for the PhD students. So the main idea for the ITN is like the main objective is to train early researchers that then they can continue doing research in Europe. So the idea is to prepare us to write scientific papers, to do how to submit these papers to international journals, to know how to write these papers. And the idea as well is like all the areas inside one network, they need to be in different disciplines. So why did you apply for this? Why did you apply for the ITN? Well, I have a double degree in economics and in journalism, and after that I did my master's research. So the main requirement is that you need to have a master's research to apply for this, and it's just like after that, after the master's research, I'm from Spain, as you can hear from my accent, and all the grants. It was 2011, and we were under a financial crisis. So I went out and I was working for 2 years at the European Commission in Brussels and 1 year at the International Organization for Migration as well in Brussels. And one day, talking with my boss, he told me, if you want to continue in an international organization, you should do a PhD. And after looking for different PhDs, I thought that the ITN or the Marie Curie, it was a really, really good experience. The only requirement that you need is like you need to have a master's research and a good CV. If you have as well experience outside the academia or outside the university, that will be an extra point for you. And the other requirement is like you cannot apply to a university that is your own nationality, but you can apply to your country just if you are 2 years outside. For example, in my case, I cannot apply to any university here in Spain, but then if I'm 2 years outside Spain, then I can apply and I can come back. So the main topic of my research or of the network, it was the labor market, and we were analyzing the labor market for every single aspect inside different disciplines. So in my case, I'm a labor economics, and I was working on the macro level. I was searching how jobs were changing due to technology, but then we had as well people that they were psychologists, that they were doing all the human resource management. We had as well engineers inside our networks, and then they were in the knowledge management. Let me just check whether I can share this. Okay. And so we were like analyzing this from different perspectives. We had like 6 different universities. Amsterdam University, that it's based in Amsterdam. Corvino Technology Transfer Center, that it was in Hungary. Trinity College in Ireland. University of Salamanca in Spain. Central European University in Hungary, and University of Siegen in Germany. And to apply for this, you have all these grants at the Marie Curie webpage. And then how it works, at least in my case, but this depends on the network. You just do 2 or 3 interviews on Skype, and one day you just go to the final interview. That in my case, it was in Amsterdam, because everything was central in everything that was happening, more or less, it was in Amsterdam. And then you go there, and then you do the final interview, and then you have 3 or 4 years, depending on your contract, to do your PhD at your university. The good part of being a member of the ITN is like you have some benefits. The first benefit is like your salary is really huge. You have like the salary is divided in 3 parts: the living, the mobility, and the family. The living salary or the living allowance, it depends on your country. So there is like a salary that is the same for all Europeans, but then that salary is multiplied by the cost of living in that country. So your salary at the end will depend on whether you will do your PhD in Spain or in Germany or in any European country. The mobility and the family allowance are the same for all the members. And so one of the nice things of being an ITN is like in the requirements that you need to fulfill while you are a PhD. It's like you need to do at least 2 secondments, or what is the same. You need to do 2 visiting research that in general are inside the network, but they can be as well outside. In my case, at the end, I did 3 because I really like to travel and to work with European people. So I was in Dublin, but not in the Trinity College, at the European Foundation for the Improvement of Living and Working Conditions, or what is the same, Eurofund, that is part of the European Union. I was as well in Amsterdam and in Hungary. And then you need to work with your fellows. So you need to have at least 3 papers, and 2 must be written with other fellows inside our network. Another nice part of being an ITN fellow is that inside our network and inside all the networks, they organize 1 summer and 1 winter school where they give us like the basic knowledge in general, like how to do research, how to do academic writing, communication skills, key factors of quality publications, how to manage our emotions. We had as well a psychology with us working like for the first years, that in case you go nuts, then you can go and talk with him. And we organized as well a final conference that it was organized in Brussels, where we were presenting to the academia society all our network and the things that we have done for the 3 years. So exactly, like at least you can do 2 secondments. You have these summer and winter schools. Another good part is that minimum you need to go to 2 2 international conference and 1 national, and you need to write like 3 academic papers. That's more or less what are like the network. What more? I think that more or less, like, I don't know if you have any question, but like exactly at the ITN is completely different than in the Marie Curie Individual. So the good part is that you don't write a proposal and it's written by the consortium, and once you are in, you have a lot of benefits that I was trying to summarize in the few time I had.
Thank you very much, Raquel. Thank you very much, Julia. So we have here 2 examples of Marie Curie. One is the individual fellowship is the case of Julia. It means that you have to apply for and in an individual way, and the other way is ITN. There is one extra call in the Marie Curie program. It calls RISE. I don't know the name of this acronym, but the idea is to do the PhD in a sectoral way. It means that you have to do your PhD, some part in a university, some part in a company, or even in another non-European country. So we have 2 types of different ways to do your PhD in that case. But according to the Julia information in the new Horizon Europe program, is not allowed with this Marie Curie Individual Fellowship to do your PhD. But anyway, ITN program, as far as I know, will be in the same formula for next program. But tomorrow we will have 1 session with the national contact point in Spain about Marie Curie, and perhaps he could anticipate the new ideas about this program. So we have some minutes for questions. I would like to open the discussion to the audience. Please, any question from you, any doubt, any curiosity that you want to ask to our speakers? Please, don't be shy. Well, meanwhile, the people is thinking about the questions. I have for both the typical question related when you are applying for any program initiative. It means the success rate. What about the success rate in the individual fellowship? And well, ITN perhaps is not a question for you, Raquel. It could be a question for the coordinator. But in the case of an individual fellowship, could you give us what is the success rate? It means the number of applicants that they get success in this program, Julia?
Yes. So The problem is now that with the Horizon, in particular the Marie Curie Individual Fellow, this year was very high in terms of the application that was received. It means that more application you received, less will be the rate of success, of course. Usually is the 10%. That gain the Marie Curie grant. However, of course, it depends on the sector that you are applying and in the panel. In my specific case, the sector called Society and Enterprise was having a specific grant under the Horizon 2020 because the idea was to push the PhD holders to have another career beside the academic career. This is why it was called Society and Enterprise, and there were some specific grants, and the success was higher. However, now with the Horizon Europe, there won't be a difference in the percentage on the success. So there won't be a specific grant just related in this sector.
Okay. Raquel, Lorena is... Sorry, Raquel, sorry.
The consortium, I know that they applied for 3 consecutive years, and the third one, they got the grant. And in my place, I think that my advisor got like 120 CVs for 2 issues.
Wow. Raquel, Lorena Peñacova asking about if it's mandatory to write 3 papers before the deadline of the grant.
No, because like one thing is the ITN Marie Curie Fellowship, and in there you should write the 3 papers, but that is for your PhD. So at the end, it depends on the university. Like in my case, I was 3 years as a Marie Curie, and then I was like 6 months unemployment, but still working with with my university. And it was in that time that I finished my PhD and I got the 3 papers. But it's not during exactly the time. You can be like not max, like you have 1 year more.
Okay. More questions? I would like, if it's possible, to remark in both cases the duration of the grant. It means, because I don't remember exactly if Julia said 24 or 36 months, and Raquel talked about 3 or 4 years. Do you mind to clarify that points, please?
For the ITN, it's 3 years, but sometimes, like for example, in Amsterdam, it was 4 years, but they were earning less each month, so the university extended for 1 more year. But the problem was like the salary was less. The normal thing is 3 years, but there are some universities that, as they know that you are gonna need 4 years to complete your PhD, then they reduce your salary for the first 3 years to have an extra one. That is 3 years.
And in the case of Julia?
So the individual fellowship classic is just 2 years. But if you want a career restart, so if between the PhD and the fellowship you couldn't carry out research, you can also apply for 3 years.
Okay, so that's important to remark. Well, if I don't know if there is last question from the audience.
I see a question from Sarah.
I cannot see, but you can answer if you see the question.
No, Sarah raised.
Sarah. Sorry, Sarah. Can you hear us?
Yes. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. Really interesting the explanation. I was. My question was that if there's a limit age for applying to this program.
For me, in my case, for the ITN, no, because when I got the grant, I was 29 years old, but I had colleagues that they were 42. So no age limit, because it's to do the PhD, so you don't have an age limit. I think that for the individual, you have a maximum amount of years between your final year of the PhD and when you get the grant, but I'm not sure. So.
For the individual fellowship, with the Horizon 2020, no. In fact, it was called Marie Curie Individual Fellowship, and even a full professor sometimes applied, so it was very hard to get. Now, with the new program under the Horizon Europe, the Marie Curie will be called the Marie Curie Postdoc. So it's specifically for postdoc. So early stage after the PhD will be fine. There was a discussion about the age, but since I am also Eurodoc president, so I was following this discussion. And of course, we said to don't put any limit of the age, but at the stage career. It means that after your PhD, you should have much more chance than other kind of experience that you have in the research. So usually the best success rate is within 5 years after the PhD, but there is no limit at the moment.
Okay, can I ask a couple more questions? What about if a person already holds a PhD or is in process? Will it affect to the decision if this person applies?
For the individual, I think that you need to have the PhD. And in my case, like if you are already in a PhD, then you need to quit that PhD and get in the new PhD.
Okay.
Yeah. We are talking here about two different programs, both called the Marie Curie. So in the ITN is specific for someone who should get the PhD at the end of these 3 years. In the case of the individual fellowship, that will be called postdoc, the aim is to be hired with the PhD. So in the individual fellowship with the Horizon 2020, it was important to explain that you had at least 5 years of research experience if you hadn't the PhD. Now with the Horizon Europe, you have to have the title of PhD before applying.
Okay, thank you. And once a person is accepted in this program, they choose a university, and will it depend on the requirements of that university, or is it decided by the program?
I think again that the answer is different if you are individual or ITN. In my case, it depends on the universities, the ones that they apply. You just can go to that university. Of course, then you can do your secondment in another university, but it really depends on the university that you are working in. So now the individual.
In the case of the individual fellowship, the institution has to be the one in which you can carry your project. Okay. So you will be hired by the host institution. So the monies to pay you goes through the host institution that will pay you. So you are strictly bound to the host institution. But as was mentioned also by Raquel, also in the Marie Curie Individual Fellowship, you will have the possibility to spend some time outside your host institution in a university or in a company. And this is something that you can decide.
Exactly. And then just one small thing. At the end, it really depends on your agreement with the university, because at least in my case, it's true that it's for PhD students, but we had as well 3 postdocs, and 2 of the postdocs, they were not at the university. They were working, they were teleworking at their own university, at their own countries, and then they were flying every month once to this university. The truth is that they were living in Spain and they were flying to Amsterdam once every month. So that also, you know, like at least in my case, they were very flexible. They were talking about this at the interview, and then for the university was okay. So
sorry, but I have to cut the discussion because we have some delay of this session and we need to start the other session. Just let me say again, thank you to Raquel and Julia for this nice experience, because I think that it's clear that there are 2 ways to apply for Marie Curie program. It depends if you are doing the PhD or you have the PhD graduate. So thank you very much. So I know that there are more questions. Raquel and Julia, you can find your emails in the audience, or perhaps you can contact with them if they can clarify something. So thank you very much. And in the chat box, you have the link for the next session, in that case, hosted by Eurodoc, the organization that Julia is the director and president. So thank you again for your participation, and thank you to the audience for attending to this session. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Ignacio, bye.
Bye bye.